When nearing an end, one often thinks about the beginning. Oxford was the beginning of many things, but most importantly, it was the beginning of my life as a historian. It also marked my beginning as a study tuber who began sharing their experiences as a non-traditional community college dropout, turned transfer student, Oxford postgrad, and Yale PhD. It's been 5 years since that beginning, but as I returned to my favorite spot in the radcam, I began my dissertation research and felt like something was missing. Or rather, a doubt that had been sitting in the back of my mind surfaced, and I began to question whether I should be doing this at all. And so I went to the archive, and I called up a document which I've been waiting to view since I had to leave Oxford during COVID. It was a critical document, which corroborated my hypothesis, proving that matrilineal descent did have precedent in English law prior to Virginia's 1662 law. Yet, this discovery left me hollow, and I returned home with a sickening doubt in my stomach and a question which I did not want to ask aloud. Why was I doing this? What's the purpose? Should I quit my PhD? I just don't want to disappoint anyone. And I really don't want to email my advisor and tell them that I don't want to finish. And that's the hard part. I don't want to disappoint anyone. But trying to keep doing it is making me really unhappy. But maybe I'm just overreacting. I'm so quick to make decisions. And this is not a decision I want to make quickly. Just so many people believed in me, and I believed in me. But I'm sure there's going to be many other entries in this because I still don't know what to do. I spent weeks trying to push through the feeling. I forced myself to sit down, telling myself that this was about discipline and that I just needed to keep trying. But it didn't work. I just felt burnt out, sad, and angry. I turned to my friends, my partner, and nothing helped. I couldn't come up with a good enough reason to quit, but I also couldn't come up with a good enough reason to stay. I was stuck, and worse than that, I felt like I was letting everyone down simply by not having the answers. And so I took a break. Maybe I just needed to walk away for a while. I focused on reading and friendships, my work and my health, but nothing could rid myself of the underlying sadness and confusion. And so I did what I thought my intuition was telling me to do. I made the difficult decision and I chose to quit. But I gave myself 2 weeks of inaction, just a chance to sit in the decision, and here's where I landed. Every time I've been in a tumultuous situation where I have to make a decision, there are 3 questions that I ask myself. And typically, these 3 questions offer an answer that helps me make the decision. The first is, would you feel relieved by making the decision? Yes or no? The second question is, in 10 years, will this decision matter? Yes or no? And 3, if you were sitting across from yourself 15 years from now, or even 5 years from now, what advice would she give you? Now, the problem is that every time in my life, those 3 questions have helped me define what decision I should make. Now, there was no clear answer. And when I was going through the process of making the decision whether I should continue with the PhD or not, I kept asking people that knew me really well, the people in my life that I trust the most, to ask me questions that would help me make my decision. And there was no question that gave me an answer. And every time I sat down to work on my research, I just kept racking my brain about why I was doing it. For a while, part of my answer was that I felt like I was doing it because I had come really far and because I had shared the journey, and that it was going to be a disservice to my community and the people that have supported me, including my family, if I didn't finish. I also went back to the beginning and why I started the PhD in the first place. And what made me really sad was that I saw the passion and the joy that I had for history when I started my PhD. The times when I was in Oxford and when I had started my program at Yale, and it just felt like everything was a new discovery, and it felt like everything had a connection, and every conversation led me down a path towards my research. But over the past couple of months, I feel like everything in my life has been drawing me away from it. And one day I was talking to my partner and was really upset, and it just felt like I didn't love it anymore. And I couldn't come up with a good enough reason as to why I should finish the dissertation. Because I care about the research, and that was the thing that was keeping me going. But I kept asking myself, is the dissertation actually the right way to get that research out into the world? And I didn't have a definitive answer that it was. And so I thought about all of the different ways that I could turn my research into an accessible database, how I could partner with various projects on the Black Atlantic in order for them to access this research, because the reason I started this dissertation and the reason I went on to a PhD in this subject was because I didn't have answers when I asked these questions about the law of slavery in undergrad. And I wanted students of the future and researchers in the future to have the resources that I had located and to have the answer to the question, so that way they could build upon that. I really see my work as a stepping stone for the field. I don't think of it as the cornerstone of the field. I just wanted to contribute to the conversation by asking a series of questions and providing answers and solutions that others had not. And so I had a conversation with my best friend Danielle and Kate, and I talked to my partner and I talked to my family, and I decided to quit. I decided that I had had enough, that I didn't feel supported, that I didn't feel like I was doing the work the way I should be, until I went to the Accepted Symposium. And being around the community of people that have been in these study sessions and then the writing group and in the Accepted community for years, I was suddenly reminded of why I started the channel in the first place, why I did the research in the first place, because I really just wanted people that had alternative educational backgrounds, that didn't feel like they were good students, that didn't feel like they're a good researcher, that feels out of place in academia, as I have, and encourage them to put their work out into the world and to try and to share and to provide support for one another. And it wasn't until I heard Lainey talking about her research, which she wouldn't have done had she not joined Accepted Society, and met me that day in New Haven and talked about her research. And seeing her passion and how much she has struggled with her identity as an independent scholar and trying to develop that structure for herself, seeing her put together that research paper, it just reminded me of the time when I was in Oxford, and I loved my research so much, and I really cared about history, and I really wanted to contribute, and I was so excited. And seeing others exude that same excitement that I once had just reminded me of where I had started. And so after dinner on the first night, I was hanging out with Kate and Polly, and Kate asked me how I was doing, and I just said I was really sad because I really cared about history and I missed it. I missed talking to my friends and having that support. And when you're at a distance from your university and you're working on your dissertation, if you're not around people that understand your work, it's really hard to feel invested in it. And so what I realized was that the reason I had struggled to find my why was because I had lacked community and I wasn't surrounding myself with people and conversations and resources to get me excited about the work. And so I got home from Oxford and had decided that I wasn't going to quit, that I was going to find a way through, but I was going to need to figure out how to do that with the support of my advisor and to create a plan. Because as a distance researcher who's working on a dissertation thousands of miles from my academic support, I need to create that structure in my day-to-day. And that means that I'm going to need to juggle a lot of things, and I'm going to need to be quite strict with my deadlines, and I'm going to have to figure out how to share the complexity without feeling like I need to define myself by one specific thing. I feel like I really lost sight of myself for a little while as I was trying to put on a new hat and become a product developer. And the thing that's really frustrating is that I really love my job and I really love creating content and I really love doing research. And sometimes I forget that I can wear more than one hat and that I don't have to identify myself simply by my job. I don't need to be a productivity YouTuber. I don't need to be a tech girly. I don't need to be a PhD student in order to know that the work that I'm doing is valuable and to care about it and to prioritize it. And so part of the reason I wanted to make this video and share this process with you is that I don't want to solely be defined by my research. I also don't want to solely be defined by my job. And I don't quite know what that ends up looking like for my channel. And I think it's going to be a bit of a process. But ultimately, I met with my advisor. We came up with a dissertation plan. And at this moment, I have a plan to complete by the graduation date, May 2026, which means I have 2 years to write my entire dissertation while working full time, running a business, creating content, and also trying to survive with my sanity intact. And this whole process of deciding whether to stay or whether to go honestly came down to self-belief, because when I was making the decision to quit, I kept saying that it's not because I didn't think I could do it, but if I'm being honest, I didn't think I could. I kept looking at my dissertation and trying to figure out the angles and trying to figure out what to do and just feeling like I have no clue how to do this. I leaned on my support system, and my support system doesn't really come from Yale. While I get the structure from my advisor and they have been supportive, they're really far away and they're not there to hold my hand and to be supportive day to day. And while it's important to have, a supportive partner and a supportive group of friends, being around other people that actually understand what you're going through is something that I didn't value before in this process. And now I can see why I started Accepted Society in the first place and why having that community is so valuable, because I felt like I lost sight of where I was going. Through that support, I feel like I can get through it. And through my community here on YouTube, I'm going to continue sharing the process. The dissertation diaries are not coming to an end as I thought that they were going to. And I'm going to have to figure out how to juggle all of it, but I'm going to take you along for the big, beautiful, ugly, messy process that is going to be the completion of this dissertation. So this marks the end of the video, but perhaps, if you allow me to be a little cheesy, the beginning of a new chapter as we figure this process out together. Thanks, friends.